Welcome back to the Dad and Cole Football Patrol.
That's right. Welcome back, guys. I am Dad.
And I am Cole.
So what are we talking about this week, buddy?
Matt Ryan's contract.
Yeah, so since the last time we did a video, Matt Ryan got a big contract, to say the least. He's the first player, Cole, in NFL history who's going to make $30 million per year. So it's a 5-year deal, $30 million per year. $100 million of that contract is guaranteed. It's a massive contract. So let me ask you this. The Atlanta Falcons, did they do the right thing? Did they do the smart thing for their franchise in locking down Matt Ryan and paying him a boatload of money? Was it the right move?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Why do you think so?
Because he is a big guy, and he's been in a Super Bowl. They had the lead 28-3, but the Patriots came back and they won because they got it into overtime.
Yeah, so did that game go to overtime or did it just end right at the end of the fourth quarter? I forget.
No, it went into overtime.
I forget that part of it. But your point, the ultimate point you're making is in a big stage, he had that team way out ahead against the Patriots. Unfortunately, they ended up losing that game. But yeah, you're pointing out the things that I like about Ryan. He is a big guy. He can throw darts down the field. He's got a good, accurate arm. He's won some big games. I think earlier in his career, there was a little bit of a knock on him that, maybe he wasn't as much of a playoff quarterback as he was against regular season opponents. But I think them going out to the Rams last year and beating the Rams to send that game for them to come back into Philly, which thankfully they lost to our beloved Eagles. But I think going out on the road against the Rams, I thought that was an impressive win for the Falcons last year. And look, there's not a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. And when you have a guy like Matt Ryan in your locker room, you can't let him go anywhere near free agency. You got to back up the Brinks truck, pay the guy the big bags of money, and keep him as a happy quarterback within your franchise because he's a guy you want to build a team around, right?
Mm-hmm. So Dez Bryant hasn't been signed by any team. This is pretty shocking because Dez Bryant hasn't been signed by any team. Like Mike Wallace has been signed, like Danny Amendola.
Yeah, the Jaguars receivers, right? I think both Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns both signed elsewhere.
No, Allen Hurns went to the Cowboys.
Yep. Michael Crabtree signed with the Ravens. There's been
Sammy Watkins.
Sammy Watkins is with the Chiefs. So I think the point you're making is there's been so much movement, and I think maybe some of these guys are not at the level of a Dez Bryant, but they found homes. So let me ask you this, Cole. What do you think it means that Dez hasn't found a home yet? Do you think there's people concerned that he might be a little bit of a behavior, like a locker room problem? Do you think teams think he's getting too old and he just didn't produce on the field last year? Like, what do you think's going on here?
I think, because, some of those guys took, a while to, find a home, Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns. Those guys took a while. And Dez Bryant, I think he could go to, the Jets or the Colts.
Yeah, so all right, so let's talk about this. Let's get into some teams. Now, you just mentioned two teams there, the Colts and the Jets. I think one of those teams could be really interesting for Bryant, and that would be the Colts. I think whatever team he ends up on, it needs to be a team that has a veteran quarterback presence, who's very assured of himself, who has the respect and the command of the locker room. Because let's face it, Dez Bryant's a bit of a wild card. He can, be animated and active on the sidelines.
I think maybe he could, go to, the, Redskins or, the, Saints, because they have Drew Brees, Michael Thomas. He could pair up good with Drew Brees, or you could go to the Packers.
Yeah, you know what? Those last three teams you mentioned, I agree with all three of those: Redskins, Saints, Packers. You're naming teams that have veteran quarterbacks in place. Even though Alex Smith, this is his first year with the Redskins, he's still a veteran guy who commands respect. And it's interesting because you remember Dez Bryant was saying he wanted to stay in the NFC East because he wanted to get to play the Cowboys twice. So I think that would be a good fit for him, and I think they need help At the receiver position, I know they have Josh Doxson there. I don't know who else much beyond him, but I do think that would be an intriguing fit. My belief is that the two things I mentioned earlier, he's getting a little bit long in the tooth, he's kind of getting older, and also some of the behavioral questionable stuff. I think those two things combined have teams putting him at arm's length and they're not so willing to take the risk. But if his numbers last season were like his top career numbers before, I think teams would be jumping all over him regardless of the attitude stuff. But I think when you combine those two things, subpar numbers last year and getting old, both those things combined make teams want to be like, not so sure we want to get involved with Dez Bryant.
Uh-oh, here comes the bad news.
I think I know where you're hinting at. Are you talking about Terrance Williams?
Yep.
Yeah, so speaking of the Dallas Cowboys and Cowboys wide receiver, we don't need to get into the details, but let's just say that Terrance Williams allegedly, possibly made some bad decisions as an adult.
Hope he's not watching this.
Might be getting into some trouble with the law and the police.
That's the second time saying that, actually.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. You almost makes you wonder, are they regretting that they released Dez Bryant now? Because Terrance Williams, who first off, I think he had a hurt foot, so he wasn't even going to be participating in off-season activities. But now you have...
But now they got Allen Hurns, so like...
They do have Hurns, but listen,
but you still need another wide receiver.
Exactly. They're short on depth at that position. And Hurns, to me, is still kind of an unproven commodity. He had, some decent years with Jacksonville.
Maybe you can make, like, Ezekiel Elliott, like the running back wide receiver type guy.
Well, I think what you're saying is where Dallas is going to go. And I don't necessarily think that means they're going to make Zeke a wide receiver. But it's going to be the Ezekiel Elliott show. They're going to run the ball all day, all night, left and right, up and down the field. Let me ask you this, though, Cole. When a team becomes so one-dimensional, do you see the Cowboys taking a step back, or do you think between Zeke and Dak with another year under his belt in the NFL, they can be a powerful offense?
I don't think they're going to be a powerful offense because, like, Terrance Williams, that was, like, the backup guy for Dez Bryant, and if you might want to release him, like, because, like, if you make bad choices, like, we got Daryl Worley, the Eagles, but then we had to release him.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's a very short threshold with NFL teams and bad behavior with players anymore in the league. And guys tend to get released and cut, especially if they're not one of the top-tier star guys. And Terrance Williams is definitely, while they were counting on him and needing him, he's definitely a bit of like a tier 2 or a role player type of guy. He wasn't at the level of Dez Bryant, but he was a guy I bet they were counting on in their considerations of cutting Dez Bryant. So things just keep getting worse down in Dallas. As Eagles fans, I can't say I'm too upset about that. Sorry, guys. But that's a fact of the matter. Big D might be in a world of hurt next year.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you could, like, make Dak Prescott the wide receiver and then bring up the backup quarterback for the Cowboys.
You want everyone to be the wide receiver there.
The Eagles drafted this rugby player. I think his name's Jordan Malali or something.
Yeah, or it's Mailata, I think. Jordan Mailata, which is fascinating. Look, I guess if you win the Super Bowl, Cole, you can kind of take some risks and do some funny things the following year. I don't think anyone's going to complain.
And he's a rugby player.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to complain about what Howie Roseman's doing for the Eagles. But this guy seems fascinating to me. He's 6'8", 346 pounds, and if you see footage of this guy playing rugby over in Australia, I guess it's in Australia. I think that's where most of the rugby's going on. I'm not certain of that. But anyway, he's a professional rugby player. He moves like a tight end running with the ball. Now, the Eagles have him slated to play offensive tackle.
Yeah.
So right now you got Jason Peters, Big V, and Lane Johnson are your three main tackles. But they need depth there. They need younger guys. I'm not really certain we can count on Jason Peters. But this guy...
They drafted two linemen, him and someone else.
You're right. They did draft another lineman, I believe. But what do you think of this guy? Someone who's never played football before in the NFL or at college or even in high school. Does he have a shot to make this team?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think so?
Because, like, let's say, like, he's at spring practice and, like, they ask him to, like, and, like, they make him a defensive player. He would just crush everybody on the offense.
Yeah, and it's funny, Cole. I don't even know if they they have him slated to play tackle now, but I think he's like an experiment. Who knows? Like you said, maybe he could be like a pass rushing defensive end. I'd be curious to see him play some tight end. I know we just saw him interviewed, a video clip of him interviewed with I think it was the NFL Network guys, and Mike Mayock, who's a pretty trusted resource of football information.
And he was super big, he was having all these big guys surrounding him, and they could barely even tackle him.
He was cutting right through them, and I know Mayock wanted to see him get some snaps at tight end. He'd be curious to see if he could catch the ball and run with it. But I think either way, he's a 7th round pick. You can take risks when you're that late in the pick, and he should be a fun guy to watch this summer.
Yep. And the Eagles drafted the only rugby player.
Yeah, that's right, buddy.
If you were Doug Peterson, would you give Jordan Mailata a shot?
Yeah, would you? If you guys were the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, would you give him a chance? Please leave a comment. What else do we want to hear from them?
Would you give Matt Ryan the biggest contract?
Yeah, if you guys were the general manager and owner of the Falcons, would you double down on Matt Ryan and give him the biggest contract in NFL history? Leave a comment.
And where do you think Dez Bryant's going to end up?
That's right. We talked about the Saints. We talked about the Redskins. I know Jason Witten was interviewed recently, and he thought the Packers would be a good fit. How about you guys? What's the best landing spot that you can imagine for Dez Bryant?
Please hit subscribe.
Yeah, that's right, guys. Please do hit the subscribe button. We'd be honored, Cole and I, to count on you as active members of our football family. So please do hit subscribe. And what else?
Nothing else.
Nothing else, right? See ya?
Yep.
Okay, take care, guys.
See ya.
Bye now.